Bless all the paths our feet walk to be free. Bless all the paths our feet walk to be free.
I am truly happy to be here with you this morning. As you may know, this is my debut speaking engagement. And no, it is not certainly the same thing as standing in front of a classroom of 30 students. Not at all.
Is it better or worse?
I'm not sure yet. So, the teacher in me wishes to set some ground rules on a form of engagement between the audience. I can see it's necessary between the audience and the speaker. Even though you look very loving and harmless. But number one, there will be no leering or sneering, nor catcalling. Just like the classroom. And secondly, and most importantly, no items of clothing, especially shoes, will be hurled at the speaker. So, Pat, leave your shoes on. I told you before. I'm serious. Okay. And Robin, Leslie, just remember, I'm watching you. Okay, shall we begin? Yes. That's important to breathe, thank you. Remind me if I stop. There once was a fellow who, with his dad, farmed a little piece of land. Several times a year they would load up the old ox-drawn cart with vegetables and go into the nearest city to sell their produce. The father and son had little in common, oh no. The old man believed in taking it easy and smelling the roses. My kind of guy. The son, on the other hand, was usually in a hurry. No, always in a hurry. The go-getter type. Early one morning, they hitched up the ox to the loaded cart and began their long journey to the city. The son figured that if they walked faster, kept going all day and all night, they would make the market by early the next morning. So he kept prodding the ox, prodding with a stick, beating the poor thing, urging the beast to go faster and faster. Take it easy, son, said the old man. You'll last longer. But if we get to the market ahead of the others, we'll have a better chance of getting good prices, argued the son. So they continued their journey down the road. 4 miles later, they came to a little house. The father said, "Here's your uncle's place. Let's stop and say hello." "But we've already lost an hour," complained the son. "Then a few more minutes won't matter. My brother and I see each other so seldom," the father answered. On the road again, the man took his turn leading the ox. As they approached a fork in the road, the father led the ox to the right. "The left is the shorter way," said the son. "I know it," replied the old man, "but this way is so much prettier." "Have you no respect for time?" "Oh, I respect it very much. That's why I like to look at beauty and enjoy each moment to the fullest." Twilight found them in what looked like a huge garden, gorgeous. The old man breathed in the aroma of all the beautiful wildflowers and said, "Let's sleep here. This is my last trip with you," snapped the son. He was upset, obviously. "You're more interested in watching sunsets and smelling flowers than making money." "Why, that's the nicest thing you've said in a long time," smiled the dad. Before sunrise, the young man shook his father awake. He hadn't slept much that night, and began again on their journey. They happened upon another farmer trying to pull his cart out of a ditch. "Let's give him a hand," whispered the old man. "And lose more time?" the son exploded. "Relax, son. You might be in a ditch yourself someday and need to help others in need. Don't forget that." It took quite a while before the cart was back on the road. Suddenly, a great flash split open the sky. What sounded like thunder followed. Beyond the hills, the sky grew dark. "Looks like rain in the city," said the old man. "Well, if we had hurried, we'd be almost sold out by now," grumbled the son. "Please take it easy and enjoy life," counseled the father. It was late by the time they got to the hill overlooking the city. They both stopped and stared for a long time. Neither said a word. Finally, the young man put his hand on his father's shoulder and said, "I see what you mean, Dad." They turned their cart around and began to roll slowly away from what had once been the city of Hiroshima. Wow. When I was preparing my speech for Reverend Sue's public speaking final class, and I ran upon this story, and it was enthralling, and I knew I had to pick this story to start my speech. But not only was I enthralled by the story, but when I read the title, which was "If We Had Hurried," I knew it would be the perfect topic for my speech. A lifetime of hurrying and doing can result in a different kind of outcome than the one in the story, but one that is equally devastating. Devastating to one's emotional, spiritual, and even physical well-being. We already know that hurrying through tasks can lead to stress. And hurrying and worrying can in turn into not only physical symptoms, but can show up as in the form of disease. So knowing this, I started asking a couple questions. Number one, why do we hurry through life instead of enjoying the journey? Is it the belief that the faster we go, the more we achieve? Probably. Or possibly that life's too short syndrome. Therefore, we need to hurry to do more, to see more, to go more. But I ask you, as I asked myself, are we happier? Are we ultimately healthier and more satisfied with our lives? Searching for answers to these questions and more was when I realized that this talk this morning was going to be an introspective journey. My childhood, I was raised in the 50s and 60s, and I know some of you young people can't even relate to that, but that's all right. Lived in a small western Pennsylvania. It was a mill town. There was a textile mill, there were coal mills close by, and of course steel mills in the area. So it was basically a blue-collar, hard-working community. My father had a couple courses in junior college, but he, along with a lot of the other gentlemen their age, had to go home and help support the family, so he never did complete his education. My mother had 4 siblings, and my grandfather worked as a custodian in the local elementary school across the street. And needless to say, all 5 of the youngsters growing up had to help support the family. And so college was never in the picture at all. So, my parents were raised to be goal-oriented, but they instilled that in my sister and I. This became our mindset as we were going through junior high school and high school. They both believed that their two girls would higher education or college education would lead us, make us more self-sufficient as young women. And so, of course, that was put on our shoulders right from the get-go as we both went on to college. Now, when I was in college, I came again and took from my parents the idea that doing equaled achieving. And so that was the goal. And to be, meant idle daydreaming, which equaled laziness. So, with that mindset, I did my 4 years of college. And not only did I achieve, but I hurried through it. And so it's like a blur. I remember hurrying to make classes. I remember hurrying even more to grab a bite to eat. I'm sure all of you people can relate to this. Eat and run, eat and run. Hurried to make class, hurried to study. It was just one big hurry, as I recall. So, after I graduated from college in Pennsylvania, I was hired at Merritt Island High School to do my 35-year stint as a high school teacher. So, beginning and ending career was unusual to be at the same school, and I was very fortunate to have that happen. The occupation of teaching, for those of you who know teachers or are teachers, it's not a laid-back job, to say the least. So, talking about rushing, still being that is my mantra, you had to rush to try to engage 25 to 30 students in 45 to 55-minute classrooms, or class periods. Now, understand that I was not the type of teacher, being an artist myself and an art teacher, I wasn't the type of teacher that could stand and assign an assignment and everybody was going to do the same thing. No such luck, right? Each of those 25 to 30 students, and of course they packed, as being an elective, they just jammed them in there as much as they could. Each of my kids had very creative minds. And they only didn't want my personal input and my personal help. They wanted that one-on-one specialty time with me to help them engage in the creative process, which I love to do. So, talk about going fast. The bell would ring, supplies were still out, you get the picture, and then on we did it again and again. I think there was supposedly a guaranteed lunch period somewhere during the day. I'm not quite sure when that was, because usually you had the kids who stayed later or wanted to be the first in the classroom to hang and do their artwork and get everything. Yeah. So it went. And I found myself at the end of each day mentally and physically spent. So even reading a pleasure book, a novel at night, I couldn't focus. And there was no way I could focus. Not only was I too tired, but it was, my mind was always on either grading, who did I need to help first tomorrow, what was my day going to look like. So my mind never quite had the time, or did I make the time to quiet it. So my mantra during those years was hurry and worry. Scurry a little bit too, somewhere in there. Hurry, scurry, worry. Now, you say, okay, well you have the weekends, right? Teachers have weekends. Okay, well let me tell you, the day After my wonderful husband and I married, hi dear. Yes. Realtor was knocking on our door, apartment door, at 9 the next morning. What were we thinking, honey? I don't know. But we found the house of our dreams the day after we got married. And it was probably one of the quickest closings we ever had. It was like, or people ever had, it was about 15 days. And then we were in the house. So now my dream came through. I had something to redecorate. And then decorate some more, and then clean in between the messes. So the weekend was, and after schools too, really, after school, was remodeling, cleaning, decorating, cleaning, decorating, and cleaning. And we did the entire room by room to finish the house. Wallpaper, paneling, tile floor, wood floor, and you name it, we did it. Enjoyed it. Did we breathe or remember that time period in our life? Yeah, a little bit. But it was fast. If cleaning in record time and efficiency were an Olympic sport, the gold medals would be hanging around my neck here. Yeah. So you may wonder, did I ever take the time and relax to really smell the roses, like the old man in the story? Yes, of course. But way too seldom. I sadly remember it taking me, what did we get, 8 weeks off in the summer? 9 weeks? Almost half of that time to be able to sit for more than 10 minutes at a time before I jumped up and felt I had to rush to do the next thing. It could have been picking up dog hair, and we always had hairy dogs in the house. So I couldn't slow down my pace. And you would think even summer vacations that I could sit and relax, but my mantra was not. I was in that hurried state mode. So now we come to the part where I go from physically always doing, and doing it fast, physically doing something, always, to just being in the now. Okay. Well, even though I find myself physically still, I could go out on my swing, I could go out and I would be physically calm. I would forget to inform my brain to be still as well. A true mind-body disconnect realization. So now I would often find myself either jettisoning to the past, where lived the woulda, coulda, shouldas, okay? Or projecting, which I stayed in the future mode most of the time, into the future with thoughts of the what-to-dos, or how to do them. And I always seem to avoid the now, the now. Learning to be present, mind, body, and spirit is a newness that has me wanting more and more these days. Now that I am retired from the workforce on this journey of self-discovery, I find myself not only wanting, but making time to just be. It's not an easy task, as many as you know. Being present or mindful for a fleeting moment in time is a start. It's only a start. But developing your mindfulness muscle means that you have to take things to a higher level of consciousness. So, how do we become more present and slow down the busy mind? I would advise, if you don't have one already, to find your passion. Mel's got her music, okay? What's your passion? What brings you and keeps you into the now? And that's generally where we are and where we stay when we're passionate about what we're doing. When I do a portrait, I love doing portraits. When I do a child's portrait, you know yourself, the time will just absolutely fly by, and before you know it, 2, 3, 4 hours are gone. But you were focused, you were present. Hobbies. Since I've retired, I've picked some different type of hobbies. Now you might think that drumming, okay, so what is calming and relaxing about drumming? Let me tell you, I was at a drum circle, drum classes on Friday night that Anthony Darmana had down in Melbourne. And there was an African drum instructor giving this workshop, level 1 and level 2, djembe. And he was from Guinea, Africa, and actually was part of the drum corps, and I believe he taught drumming at the University of Florida. His hands would just fly off of that drum. And I was just in awe. But I was also very, I can do this too. Yeah. I just loved it. So, have you ever done something like that where you're not thinking about making a mistake? You just, even when Fred's here on just Tuesdays, and all of us start, right, Delight? And we get in that rhythm. And no longer are you worried, you're not thinking about it, you're just there. Okay? And all of a sudden, you just feel that energy. But we lose it so fast, don't we? We lose those moments. If we can only sustain those, that's the secret. I also do Tai Chi. I would do more martial arts. I did when I was younger with my son. But you know, the body changes your mind after a while. Yeah. So Tai Chi, now wouldn't you think that picking that kind of an activity would necessarily put you in the now? Well, it should, shouldn't it? Okay. And it's a calming, definitely calming activity, but you have to realize that it took me about 3 years of learning all the moves going through the 3 different sections of Tai Chi. So even though, yes, I was relaxed generally, my mind was thinking about, okay, what do we do next? What step? I got to worry about this move. Am I doing it right? Am I following the instructor? The other people around me, beat it up, right? Okay, so let me tell you something. I've gotten to the point that, not often, but I've had snippets of glimpses on that special day where, oh yeah, you know it's good, you know it's working for you, it's right. And that I've been able to go through the moves, listening to my breath, and move with my breath, and actually start feeling the energy, feeling that I'm pushing the energy. So I'll give you a little demonstration.
You know you want it, right? Go, Kim. Okay, I gotta be in the zone now. Oh. Jeez, she's off now. Okay, so let's do it slowly. Feel the energy between your hands. Oops.
So, we need to slow down the busy mind. That's the ultimate. And doing some research, I don't know if any of you have read any of Eckhart Tolle's books, Well, I got a hold of it, and it was around the house, and I kept seeing it laying around. I didn't really pick it up, and then finally, when I knew I had to extend this talk from 10 minutes to a half hour, I did some more research, and I found the book fascinating. Practicing the Power of Now is his shortened version of his original. And he says the key is to end the delusion of time. Time and mind are inseparable, he says. Remove time from the mind and it stops, unless you choose to use it. To be identified with your mind is to be trapped in time. The compulsion to live almost exclusively through memory and anticipation. This creates an endless preoccupation with past and future, and an unwillingness to honor and acknowledge the present moment and allow us to be. The compulsion arises because the past gives you an identity, and future holds the promise of salvation, of fulfillment in whatever form. Both are illusions. The more you are focused on time, the more you miss the now. The most precious thing there is. So why is it the most precious thing? Because it is the only thing. It's all there is. The eternal present is the space which your whole life unfolds. The one factor that remains constant. Life is now. There is never a time when your life was not now, nor will there ever be. Richard Carlson, author of Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, says, to a large degree, the measure of our peace of mind is determined by how much we are able to live in the present moment. Irrespective of what happened yesterday or last year, and what may or may not happen tomorrow, the present moment is where you are, always. Without question, many of us have mastered the neurotic art of spending much of our lives worrying about a variety of things. Okay. Once, all at once, we allow past problems and future concerns to dominate our present thoughts. Okay, I'm saying it again. We allow past problems and future concerns to dominate our present moments. So much so that we end up anxious, sound familiar? Frustrated, it sure does. Depressed, I know some people, and hopeless. On the flip side, we also postpone our gratification, our stated priorities, and our happiness, often convincing ourselves that someday, well, gotta be better than today. Unfortunately, the same mental dynamics that tell us to look toward the future will only repeat themselves so that someday never actually arrives. John Lennon once said, "Life is what's happening while you're busy making other plans." When we're busy making other plans, our children are busy growing up. The people we love are moving away and dying. Our bodies are getting out of shape, and our dreams are slipping away. In short, we miss out on life. Many people live as if life were a dress rehearsal for some later date. It isn't. In fact, no one has a guarantee that he or she will be here tomorrow. Now is the time we have, and the only time that we have any control over, this moment. When our attention is in the present moment, we push fear out of our minds. Fear is the concern over events that may happen in the future. Case in point, preparing for this talk. Get me in the spur of the moment when my mind isn't involved. and I can usually get up and go with the flow. But give me 3 weeks to think about it. OMG, I was miserable. So the survival was the fact that I was learning and putting it into practice. Every time I went to, oh my God, I've got to get up and pray. What am I going to do? I pull myself right back into the now and go, no worries, I'm good right now. And I'm going to take it moment by moment by moment. So, our fear over what might happen in the future, we won't have enough money, our children will get into trouble, we'll get old and die, blah, 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 blah. To combat fear, the best strategy is to learn to bring your attention back to the present. Mark Twain said, I have been through some terrible things in my life, some of which actually happened. Being mindful just means to be in the present, in the moment, every moment. Paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and being non-judgmental. So when we're scattered and multitasking, which we all do, which our culture tends to prize, it's impossible to be mindful. There's no doubt, however, that we live in a crazy busy society. And I'm betting at least some of these excuses may sound all too familiar. But I don't have time to be mindful. Well, mindfulness isn't about making time for anything. No classes are necessary. No special footwear is required. It's just about being present with what you're doing while you're doing it. Like now. In the book, The Miracle of Mindfulness, Vietnamese Buddhist monk Thai Han says, while washing the dishes, one should only focus on washing the dishes. Feel the soap. Feel the warm water as it runs over your hands and between your fingers. Feel the temperature of that water. When your mind wanders, just pull it back. Just wash the dishes. But if I'm only in the present, how will I plan to get anything done for the future? Okay? When you're thinking about and planning for the future, do it mindfully, instead of while you're stirring the pasta. We all need to plan for tomorrow, and we can try to do that consciously instead of absent-mindedly. But I can't do less. I actually need to be doing more. It's not about doing less. It's about being mindful with what you're already doing. In the end, you'll actually get more done. You know how sometimes when you're vacuuming, and then you get, this is for me, then you get distracted by the papers on your desk. And you know you have to write bills, but while you're there, you might as well check your emails. And 2 hours later, you're watching UFO videos on YouTube. And neither the vacuuming nor the paperwork is done. So the recommendation is, when you're vacuuming, just vacuum. And then finish vacuuming, and then the vacuuming will be done. Check. Okay? A U.S. News and World Report claims that studies have shown that mindfulness has a positive effect on brain function. I didn't need to know this. Lowering the stress response and increasing the feeling of relaxation and well-being. So basically, you get more done and feel more relaxed doing it. But I don't know how to start. Begin by just starting to notice that there is a present moment. See how long you can stay in that present moment. 1, 2 seconds, maybe a minute. Meditation helps. Our food tastes better when you're mindful of the texture and the feeling as you're chewing it. And the tastes are so fabulous. And guess what, guys? If you slow down and mindfully eat, you get filled up quicker. Okay? You won't eat as much. 1 or 2 seconds a minute. Besides that, spending time with our friends and family is more pleasurable if you focus your attention on them. Are you a good listener? I failed a listening test at BCC. Oh my God, I was so embarrassed. I did. And I went there as a smart aleck teacher thinking, okay, I'm taking this BCC class because I have to take it for recertification, blah, 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 you can take it. So I'm going to take public speaking. So one night I went in, the professor says, okay guys, we're going to do about 10 minutes of listen and then we're going to have a small quiz afterwards. And I go, what this is about? No biggie. Okay, this person with an accent and the most dull, boring, monotone voice in the world comes on. Then the background noise starts. There's a train in the background. And then it's like restaurant noise that comes in around this speaker, and he's as boring as can be. And I try to pull myself back and listen to really focus on this. I failed the test. And I think there was only 6 questions. I don't think I... Alrighty then. Okay. So it says I don't have to slow down and I'm running over here, so I need to finish up fast. Be present. You didn't. All right, get comfortable in your seats.
We're paying attention.
Oh, we do have cake. So, in today's world, it's all too easy to get distracted from what's truly important. There are no reminders to be mindful unless we create them. The responsibility is in mine as well as your hands. Staying in the present moment can dramatically reduce stress, increase your happiness, and give bursts of insight that might change your life and mine too. I would like to believe that the old man in the story continued to live a joyous, peaceful life, and that his son learned to stop, slow down, look around, and take a few moments to be thankful for the day, for his relationship with God, his family, and friends, and the time he has that day. Because in the process of hurrying to finish this task, to hurry to finish the next task, we may not have tomorrow. Namaste.
Bless all the